Hello and welcome back to the channel. I thought that today I might look at something which is perhaps interesting to people and which Buddhism has an answer to, or it has a perspective on. And I think this perspective would be interesting to a lot of people, so let me say what it is. The subject of ghosts. Now, lots of people believe in ghosts, and lots of people have had ghostly experiences. Of course, traditionally we know about stories of old mansions and castles that have the same ghosts haunting them for centuries, and people walking around with their heads under their arms and things like this. So what is going on there? Is it just people's overactive imagination? Are they earthbound spirits in some way, which people often say? Or is something else going on? Well, I think the Buddhist perspective on this would be that they are pretas, people from the hungry ghost realm. I've spoken with some Buddhist experts on this, really, and we really have to understand the preta realm and what it represents. So it's a kind of aborted birth, in the words of one person I communicated with. So, of course, it's one of the unfortunate realms, like hell, but it's close to the earth. And although in general it's said that the higher realms can interact with the lower realms, on occasions it can also happen the other way around, and the preta realm can, if conditions are right, interact with human beings. So what is a preta? Well, a preta is obviously someone who has an unfortunate birth because or aborted birth because of greed, desire, envy during their life. They were eaten up by these things, and so for these reasons they are born in the preta realm. They never showed any generosity of spirit, or little, and they were always desirous and greedy. These are the characteristics of people or beings who will go to the preta realm. So it's quite possible that when someone is born or abortively born into the preta realm, that the person doesn't really understand what's going on, doesn't know what's happened, and this is not a question of hanging around for a few days or weeks or months because of confusion and then moving on. No, this is the birth. And so although the person might be confused and not know what's happened, this is the future for however long it takes a karma that brought the person there to exhaust itself. So in the preta realm, the beings are extremely unhappy, of course. They suffer from great hunger and thirst of every kind, not only physical. So they can often cling, it seems, to remembrances of their past and are always seeking to get out of the preta realm. So if somebody is particularly desirous and is born into the preta realm, they might find that they are confused and they hang around, or they hang around the environment they used to know, or create that environment for themselves. And if other people impinge on them or come to where that environment is in terms of location, then it's quite possible that the person in the human realm will have experiences which we would call ghostly, I once had some such experience myself. I lived in a house which at the time I thought was haunted, but now I think it was haunted by predators, so it's not really a haunting at all as such. Um, it was in Wales. I remember that I went to sleep and then I woke up in an old church, and I was still on a bed, but it was an old bed. It seemed like hundreds of years before, at least 100 years, and everybody was sick and seemed to be near their last gasp. There was an old church you could see from the high window. I'm not sure what you call it, the arc, the high window. The outside storm raging and lightning bolts, and everything was dark. Door suddenly thrown open, and this crazy guy with rolling eyes, ragged clothes, ran into this desolate place as if he knew exactly where I was, and I was sick on the bed in this dream. And he came straight for me, dived straight onto the bed, went completely through me. And this happened 3 times. So at the time I thought it was 3 different people, but now that I think I know what it was, I believe it was a predator in extreme frustration, having arranged what he thought would be an escape from his karma through an association with a living person, acting 3 times. So I think that this same person failed 3 times and came around again and again, and in frustration. So, of course, somebody from the living world is seen as some kind of door by a predator. Maybe they can get it back into the living world through the door. Of course, when I think about it now, my situation was just that I was asleep in bed, and this predator had created a whole environment around me. I was still in bed, but he created the whole environment of the church, maybe his old environment around me, and created this whole schema of things with the hope of using me as some kind of escape into the into the human world, which he was unable to do, of course, because it was his karma. His karma sent him to the predator world, and however cleverly he arranges his environment and attempts to escape, he cannot escape until his karma is exhausted in that realm. So I think that this is what happens always with the idea of ghosts. They are actually people or beings from the predator realm attempting to lessen their confusion, to understand their surroundings, and if they have some kind of understanding, then trying to escape from it, although the confusion and the attempt to escape can certainly come together and happen at the same time too. So yeah, I think that you can see the same thing happening in all ghost stories really. The old knight haunting the castle with his head under his arm, well, that's a predator too. Somebody who is particularly associated with that environment in the past, obviously to be there must have committed many bad deeds, mostly based on desire and greed, and this kind of being is very happy when it can react with the human world, and at the back of the mind is always the thought that there might be some way of escape because they are confused and they don't know what's happening to them. So they hope that they might find some way of escape through humans and through the human world, although it can't happen because they have to exhaust their karma. That's the only way they can get out, but in their confusion they often don't realize that. Beings can stay in these realms for lengthy periods of time or short periods of time. It depends on the karma entirely, but we should remember that the way people in one realm experience time is not necessarily the same as the way beings in another realm experience time. So it might seem very, very long here and very short somewhere else. So they say that there's a story about somebody dying as a god and being born in the human realm and living a whole life until the age of 60, and the life was a virtuous one. And when she died, she went back and became a deva again, a god, and the same god as before. And she went to see her husband in the deva realm, in the god realm, and he said, "Oh, what kept you? I was just about to come and look for you." So she said, "Oh, I've been dead actually, and I lived a whole human life and then came back to the deva realm, the god realm." And her husband said, "Well, you've only been away for 10 minutes. So that's how it works in one direction, but it could be the opposite could happen as well. So maybe for a preta it seems very, very long, but and for a human it would be shorter, but that's just speculation, no idea really. But anyway, in terms of human years, I think that pretas can stay in this realm for hundreds and longer, or it could be a very short period indeed. So these are interesting ideas and perspectives, and I think that they fully and completely explain the ghost phenomenon in the human world. Cannot be beings who have died hanging around and not going on to face their karma, because in Buddhist terms, in the Theravada tradition, you are born again immediately after you die, and in the Vajrayana Tibetan tradition, you can't really hang around as a disembodied spirit for more than 49 days. So that cannot be an answer. The answer must be that they are pretas. So I hope that is enlightening in some way, and or interesting in some way. And see you next time. Thank you.